People don't know this, Brian, but we're raising a Series A right now. Um, in 3 years, we hope to do 120 locations.
My guest in today's episode is Jorge Barragan. George is the co-founder of the Picklr. They're the #1 premier indoor pickleball facility company. They have 6 locations right now. They have 5 in Utah, 1 in Colorado, and they're rapidly growing. George talks in this episode about how their goal is 120 locations in 3 years. George also announces a huge partnership, and this is arguably the #1 company out there. This company sponsors a ton of athletes, and they probably have the #1 paddle on the market as well. Now, here's the episode. Hey, what's going on, George? Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and the Picklr?
Yeah, so my name is Jorge Barragan. I always joke around. Obviously, if people will see it spelled out Jorge. So it just depends on the setting. If job interviews, it's Jorge Barragan. If it's party George, it's Jorge Barragan. So you get to pick which one you want today, Brian. No, but I'm a father of 6. I got 6 kids under the age of 9. So you can, if you have kids, you know how busy that is. But I have a wife that's superwoman, and I'm based in Ogden, Utah. It's about 30 minutes north of Salt Lake City, and oh man, so much to say about the Picklr, even from previous podcasts that you heard, Brian. I mean, we're about to kind of shock the world on what we're doing, so I'm super excited to dive into it. But the Picklr is primarily indoor pickleball facilities. And so we started in Utah. Obviously, for me, Utah is the mecca of pickleball. It's one of the most. It's one of the states that searches pickleball the most. They consume pickleball the most per capita. We have the most pickleball courts, and so I think at times we don't get enough credit of what Utah produces, from pros to indoor facilities to courts to players to youth programs. And so, yeah, Utah, you'll keep hearing it here from George. Utah is the mecca.
Yeah, that's funny. That's you. So you have like 6. You said you have 6 kids.
6 kids, 4 girls, and the last 2 were boys. So I gotta, it's great because my girls love everything that dad loves. So they watch UFC, they watch pickleball, they watch basketball, and then my 2 boys, they're just, they're exactly the same as my girls. So it's a dream.
Yeah, awesome. So we can definitely get into UFC. I have a background in MMA. Wow. All right. So we have a lot to unpack here, but is this like a coincidence? Is there some irony here? You have 6 kids, you have 5 locations. I think you have more locations coming, right?
Yeah. So we actually have 6 locations, 5 in Utah, um, and 1 in Loveland, Colorado, with the 7th on the way. So that one's going to be in Kaysville, Utah. That one's going to be our big 15 court facility venue. It's going to have 3 championship courts. We're gonna build them to have stadium seating, upstairs mezzanine with glass. It's being built specific for pickleball, and so when it comes to the top facilities in the country, we're going to be right up there. And so we really love that concept because it's going to allow us to host bigger tournaments, right? So if Major League wants to come, if a collegiate tournament, we're gonna host in April, probably the largest high school tournament there's ever been. So far we have 25 high schools committed in Utah to play in this, and so we're excited to for the growth of youth pickleball. We feel like if anyone's going to do it right, the Picklr wants to step in to help because we have the ability to provide venues, certain partnerships. you'll hear it here first, but we're going to be a venue partner of Joola. So Joola is going to provide us anything from paddles to bags to shirts to um, ball carriers, dividers, anything that will allow us to um, provide a successful training for these youth. And so the other thing people don't know is if you go to Duper and you look at the top 100 youth in the nation, Utah, has maybe 15 in the top 50. So um, not only do we have Tyler Loon, Callie Smith, Elise Jones, Megan Dizon, Todd Fote. I mean, you name it. These are all players in MLP right now. We got some youth coming up, so it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, that's super exciting. How did you end up, like, why was building a facility first, like the first idea with you and your business partner? Because I see a lot of people, they usually start in like apparel, they start with paddles. Facility seems like the one thing that actually is like highest in demand that doesn't seem that
Yeah.
saturated. So how'd you end up
Yep.
there?
So you can see this paddle here. This was my first pickleball stint. So I started a pickleball paddle company, just really heavy on design. I really wanted something in the market that looked and cool, that represented what pickleball is. I mean, I started casually playing pickleball in 2016. There were some friends at a tech company I worked at called Pluralsight. They would invite us to play. I liked ping pong. I played ping pong quite a bit at my previous jobs, and so I was like, well, let's see if my ping pong game translate, and it sort of did. I spin the ball too much, and so I had to get away from some bad habits that I had in ping pong. But ultimately, I think what did it for me is one winter we went to a rec center, and I saw two. They had to have been 17, 18-year olds playing pickleball, uh, and there was 50 people waiting to get on the courts. I was like, "What is this? Like, what cult did I just join? Right? Like, it's lunchtime. I'm like, don't you people have a job to be at? I mean, these kids. I'm like, are you supposed to be in school? Like, what's going on here?" But I saw these two kids playing pickleball, and I'm like, it was fast paced, it was exciting. They were, athletic, so they were jumping to slam the ball. I'm like, I've never seen pickleball played this way. At that point, I hadn't watched or consumed any professional pickleball. And so I thought to myself, before I even knew the potential and the growth of pickleball, I mean, I thought, pickleball is the young people are gonna take over this. There's not any cool paddles out there, and so I designed this. It took about a year and a half. So in 2019, I bought I think it was close to 500 paddles, and I just said I'm just gonna try it out, and I ended up selling 100 paddles a month just on Instagram ads, and so. Yeah, and so I thought, I have something here. I had a business partner at the time that, was great when it came to eye catching things. And so, we did those paddles and they said, hey, let's really take this serious. So end of 2019, I paid someone to design a new paddle for me. It was going to be a carbon fiber. It was going to be what you're seeing now, essentially. December 2019, and then obviously, I order in China, COVID hits, and so I don't hear from the manufacturer for 10 months, 11 months, and so I just, I didn't lose the passion for it. I just was like, what is the next thing? What, I've always been an entrepreneur. I have a father who is an immigrant to this country that always hated working for someone. And that was embedded in me from a very young age. That to work for yourself or to go to school. And so I took the route to, how can I figure out to be my own boss? And I had a great job. But December of 2021, there was a merger that happened, and I was having a great year even during COVID. Sorry, it's actually December 2020, the year of COVID. I worked for a natural food supplement, and everyone was trying to get healthy. So it was killing it. I got laid off December 2020. Just had my fifth kid. It's Christmas is right around the corner. Luckily, I envisioned myself a year previously, set myself up for the opportunity to do something one day. And so I had saved up and I took a month to decide what is the next step. And thinking back at that rec center that had 50 people waiting, there was one little small venue here that wasn't supporting it. I thought I could do this. I didn't know what it would take. uh, y- you know, uh, no, I mean, people don't know this, but the guy that leased us 15,000 square feet didn't know I didn't have a job. I didn't have a business plan. He didn't check my credit. He didn't ask for financials. That was the only time that ever happened. Moving forward, having or leasing a building is one of the most difficult things. This dude, for some weird reason, decided not to do any of that. And the Picklr started the concept in January of 2021. We signed our first lease with my buddy Austin, who's my business partner. I called him up. I said, I have this idea. He's like, I'm in. I'm like, dude, let me tell you what it is. And he's like, nope, let's do it. And so a lot of people have the passion to do something, but you need that somebody that to rally, either a friend or a family member. But this guy wanted to be in it with me, and so April of 2021, the Picklr opened up its first location in Uinta, and here we are. Sorry, that was a long story there.
No, no, that's what we're here for. Um, Damn, whoever that guy is that gave you the loan, can you forward me his contact information?
No, he gave me the lease. Lease, sorry,
Please.
the lease. Yeah, he. Yeah, I don't know what it was, Ryan, but for some reason he's like, I've heard of this pickleball thing, and so we just kind of had to really show him, like, look, pickleball is the future, right? Like you're gonna have a good tenant. Like just let us come in and take 15,000 square feet of your brand new facility that you just spent millions on to allow these, two dudes that don't know what they're doing come in and just with an idea. And yeah, so
Yeah. Um, what was your role at the software at those tech companies?
yeah, so I worked for two previous companies in the software, so Pluralsight. I kind of started off, I've always wanted to be in tech, and so I sacrificed a really good job to start from a very entry level job. So business development, making 100 phone calls a day and passing on leads, like the grind. I wouldn't never recommend that job to anyone, but it allowed me to be an account executive and then an enterprise sales rep, and then I leveraged what I learned there to go to um, different companies where we were able to go through acquisitions. I was part of an acquisition with WeWork. If anyone is familiar with WeWork, at the time they were the largest and fastest growing company in the history of the world until it wasn't. And so that was exciting to be a part of. And then I leveraged that experience to be a business strategist where I helped the last company I worked for with sales and marketing. And so then I applied that knowledge to what I'm doing now. And so, it just took a passion for wanting to understand sales and marketing to lead me to be able to start a business. And so, I'm college dropout, never finished college. Everything I learned from being in fast paced, growing tech companies that allowed me to learn and to take in the knowledge I know now. So this is the first time where I've been in a situation as an entrepreneur where uh, you know people don't know this, Brian, but we're raising a Series A right now. Um, in 3 years, we hope to do 120 locations, and so at an eight court average, people talk about lifetime. Just wait until they hear what the Pickler is going to do. We will be the largest pickleball court indoor pickleball court provider in the world, and so that is our goal, and we really think it's attainable. We're launching our franchise program in a couple of weeks. There's a couple of people that are wanting to do franchises with either one concept or no concept. We've done this 6 times for the last 2 years, and so we have proven models. We have, I think, one of the most amazing brands in pickleball when it comes to the Pickler, and so we're gonna we want to dot the United States, and we have interest in Canada already to go and build facilities, and so we're excited to start touring the country and to start figuring out which great entrepreneurs we can work with that they can do franchises through us, but also where are we going to have our own facilities, and so that's what I was saying that from an indoor standpoint, we want to take over and provide facilities throughout the country.
That's awesome. 120 locations is super fucking exciting.
Yeah,
One, talk to me about Austin. We can talk
yeah.
offline. I got plenty of thoughts here, and like you already know, like there's all these pros that have moved here and they're playing out of like Dreamland, which is 30 minutes away, and there's just nothing between Austin and Dreamland and like that area, Dripping Springs. So there's not a whole lot of exciting stuff. And
Is that where you're based?
yeah, I'm based over in Austin.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
coming.
yeah,
We're
man, I'm
coming,
telling you.
Brian. Texas is we're I've been to Dreamland a couple of times. One for the collegiate tournament. We sponsored a couple teams, and then you know what? I had an opportunity. So Rhett Weaver, the podcast you listen to, he's one of my good friends. He loves Gary V, and so there was a V experience where if you owned one of the NFT, the clown series, you could go to Dreamland and participate in all things MLP. So he talked me into it. He bought another NFT in order for me to have the V Friends experience, and we flew out to Dreamland. And so I had the mindset, I'm going to introduce myself to every person. I'm going to find out who Steve Kuhn is. I'm going to meet these owners. I want everyone to know who we are, right? I want to know the CEO of Duper, um, because I'm going to tell them my story, and I'm going to tell them what we're doing. Um, it might be too early to announce this, so I might keep this one in the bag. When is this being released?
This will be released next Wednesday. Oh, dude,
I'm
you're
gonna
not
do
gonna make everyone. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
it.
That's what we're here for.
So through building a relationship with Richie from BLQK, BLQK, they've won it 3 times. The Picklr Inc. is acquired a portion of BLQK. So excited to be a part of that of Major League, and so we're super excited to partner with Richie. Obviously, even in the short history of MLP, he's won it 3 times with BLQK, and he owns a part of the Bay Area Breakers, and they just won it in the Challenger League. So he has 4 rings now, and so to be a part of that winning culture, I'm super stoked about. So yeah, the Pickler Inc. is that's kind of another thing that we're getting some we're excited about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that guy Richie. I don't know a whole lot about him, but obviously I've followed the MLP and it's been awesome, and been able to go to some of those live events. But he's doing something right, and
Yeah,
whether it's him or just recruiting Irina and making sure that she's on your
I'm on
team,
a team.
yeah, um,
That's so funny. It's true though.
yeah, dude, I'm rooting for you 100% as someone who also had a father who immigrated to this country. Well, both my mom and dad, they both immigrated from Korea. My dad came here with nothing, and he kind of created this like rags to riches story, right? Like he was a janitor, and then he created like a t-shirt printing kiosk in a mall, and then he eventually created some like retail beauty supply stores. For like having that similarity together with you, and also going into the tech space, and totally relate when you're talking about how fast tech moves, and like just even if you're not really into tech but you want growth, like personal growth, job growth, like go into tech, and
Yeah,
the way everything moves is you'll grow exponentially a lot quicker, you'll hit goals quicker. But yeah, that's fucking awesome, man. With all this growth, and you have a lot of things happening, and there's so much opportunity. Kind of sky's the limit, and you got like the partnership with Joola. What has what was kind of your like initial concern or fear when you started this off?
Well, I mean, you always hear, you build it, they will come. We thought we had created an amazing concept, but it took us figuring out you build community, you build leagues and programs, tournaments that people love, um, events that people want to participate and be a part of, competitive events that help you grow in pickleball, uh, great amenities in the facility and trainers, and then they will come. And so I think initially, the biggest thing is like, do I think this is the best idea in the world? And if so, what am I willing to do to make it that right? And so I think for the first year and some changes, just figuring out this business model, right? I think when I knew I had something, I would get calls from people in Texas, from Seattle, from Florida, from Arizona. They were flying in, they were driving through. Like, what are you doing, right? And so, I think that's when I said I have something here. Me and Austin, my business partner, ultimately decided either A, we move on this and become the best indoor pickleball provider and figure out how to do this, or B, someone's going to do what we're doing and catch up and surpass what we're doing. And so we raised a little, just a small round of friends and family initially, right? This next raise is going to allow us for the next 3 to 5 years to really um, uh, build this company. And so the Picklr Inc. Just Brian, to give you a little bit of context, the Picklr Inc. owns the pickleball, or the indoor pickleball clubs, um, the Picklr Shop, which is an online e-commerce store, all things pickleball. You can find, your major brand paddles, bags, balls, whatever you can think of. We're getting ready to launch our clothing line called Stack Apparel, which I'm very, very excited about. So it'll be your Viore, your Lululemon type quality clothing for pickleball. And instead of using the vertical of yoga, we're going to use pickleball to, we really want to dominate that vertical by providing some really awesome clothing, the franchise program, and then a portion of the BOQK Bears, or the Black Bears. So the Picklr Inc. I mean, it started with just one facility, um, but this is I've been able to surround myself with really smart people, to e-commerce, in tech geniuses. I love Steve and John. They were doing a 15 indoor court facility. We decided to merge together and decide not only do facilities, but to do the e-commerce side and do the clothing brand together. And so just finding the right partners, and then people that believed in your vision from day one, that, the initial small investment that came in, it took friends and family to raise money. And for a lot of these people, you don't know if it was their life savings, but they believed right in what we were doing. And, now they get to see and participate in all of this. And it'll be awesome to see. We're going to be all things pickleball. And, I think for us, I think what drives us is our passion for the love of pickleball. I didn't build a company because, uh, pickleball's growth and the business opportunity. I truly first love pickleball. I consume pickleball. I attend events. I'm missing out on the certain. I mean, it's about to start. It's PPA events, APP, MLP. I consume it all, and so I think what drives us ultimately is the love to grow this game and what pickleball does for communities. I think that doesn't get talked about enough. Underserved communities, if they had pickleball courts at parks, in the schools, it's a way to bring communities together to help solve mental illness, and help people get in shape. Pickleball is just incredible in all aspects of life.
Yeah. Man, totally resonate with all that. And I appreciate uh, that you do it for the community, you do it for the people. Mental health, obviously, everyone is very like invested in that as we're seeing more and more people open up about it and just more investments, like not just resources, but just talking about it. Um, you said something about finding the right partners. Oh, yeah. I think it's a very admirable quality that you have. You mentioned like friends and family were investing and you're going to do like the Series A. In its current climate, not just the recession in the economy, but you start to see a lot of false investments. There's a lot of rug pulls, whether it's crypto. There's just a lot of stock companies in like the NASDAQ and the stock exchange that you just hear it like left and right. So it's very admirable that you're able to return the investment to people. Like you said, for some people, it might be their life savings, and you just never know where that money is coming from. So that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
actually, so the Picklr probably, you might have more locations than them, but Chicken and Pickle, I they might be a competitor, maybe not because they have like kind of the food and beverage. But do you want
Yeah.
to take this moment to throw some shade at them?
You know what? I like the concept of chicken and pickle. I think it has its place, and it does a good job of introducing pickleball to communities, right? I have a brother lives in San Antonio. You know, he he would never play pickleball, but took the opportunity to go to a chicken and pickle um and play in it, right? I think what's ultimately going to separate us from the lifetimes, the chicken and pickles, all the entertainments that are coming up. Um, we're pickleball first, right? In lifetime, it's an amenity. It's hey, we got basketball courts, we got racquetball, we got gym, pool, and pickleball, right? Our whole sole focus is pickleball. Creating new players, retaining new players, youth programs. How do we uh, how do we help people aspire to reach the pro level or join a collegiate team? Um, we are all things pickleball, and I think that ultimately is what's going to set us apart from everyone else. Um, when we think about you think about it like a chicken and pickle. I'm sure that 80 to 85% of their revenue comes from food and beverage, right? And they're trying to do more pickleball events because they realize there's an opportunity there. But for us, our sole focus when we created the Picklr was how do we serve communities that are underserved with pickleball courts what also, don't get me wrong, I love to play outside on a beautiful day and get some games in. But ultimately, what's going to set us apart from the parks is the programs that we built and the community aspect of the group meets that we use, that people can interact and figure out, hey, are you attending this event, or who needs a fourth, or how can they come into the facility and just participate in this, to the training aspect. I've seen so many people just grind and grind to chase their dreams. It's awesome to be able to provide that for people too. I mean, in Utah, in a nice day, good luck trying to get on the court, right? Um, Having six kids and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go play at the park for an hour," uh, and just to play two games because we're waiting around most of the time, it's not happening anymore. So I think people finding a place where they can reserve a spot. It's They come in, they do their thing, and they're out. I think there's going to be a lot of communities that need this.
Yeah, that's great to hear. The emphasis on community. Um, you might you have obviously a closer ear to the ground on this. Something I think about often is like, where will pickleball be in like 20 to 30 years, and how do we know it's not going to end up like something like bowling? I think
Or racquetball, or Mount.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're yeah. I get asked that all the time, Brian. Because there is a chance that pickleball could just fizzle out, right? But here's why I'm bullish on pickleball. Uh, and this is I mean this is the answer that everyone gives that loves pickleball. We've never seen anything like this where even Padel having its great growth right now, it still requires high level, um, very athletic. I mean, yeah, it requires a quite a bit out of someone to be able to play Padel. What I love about pickleball is I'll look around as I'm participating in events where I'm at an open play, and I'm seeing, my 4 or 5 group that I play in on Thursday mornings. It's 65-year olds and it's 21-year olds, right? That wide range of groups. It's going to be. I mean, you will find it in golf. You'll find it in, I don't know what's another sport that um, might accommodate that. But let's just use golf for example, or tennis. Tennis is very and golf are very expensive. I don't know if you've played golf, Brian. In 2020, I golfed 120 times. I can tell you maybe just one time I felt good uh, about one outing I was on. Golf is very very hard. Tennis is very very hard, and it's very expensive. And so I think the entry to pickleball is, you can still find an Amazon set for $50 and go to a park and learn to play, right? You can still play with your dad or your grandparents or your kids. I think that's what makes pickleball beautiful. As we start gathering the data and seeing, it's starting to even out everywhere, right? Where everyone used to think, oh, it's the 65-year-olds and up that are playing it. Now the millennials are. I don't know how old you are, Brian, but I'm a millennial. This group is really gravitating because we're the old dudes now that are having kids that used to play sports and just want to feel alive every once in a while playing in a tournament. And so the rush of pickleball and being able to be athletic again, I think, is really captivating to the millennials. But we're also seeing the Annalise of the world, right? The Gabriel Tardios, the Hayden Patrick the kids that are giving up soccer and basketball and uh, baseball, football to play pickleball because A, it's fun, and B, the entry point to pickleball is still. I mean, if you're going pro, there's a lot of travel still, but I still think in the communities it's fairly cheap to get into it from the youth level.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Damn, you said something and I totally forgot where I was going with it. But as where do you look for like inspiration? Whether it can be someone within the pickleball space or even outside.
I mean, it originally, it came from a mom and dad. I mean, you've seen it, Brian. I call it the immigrant mentality, right? We were raised in that immigrant mentality. My mom and dad came to the United States at 17. They had just gotten married. I just think about where I was at 17, but they know English. Um, friends. They did have one family member. Um, but I think ultimately for me, seeing my dad be a business owner for the last 17 years, and I like to say that he made it because he was able to buy his time back. I think ultimately for me, that just led me to believe, even now, that the American dream is still possible, right? Um, and I think this new generation of entrepreneur, um, if they're doing it, they really have to believe that and instill that in this younger generation that is being consumed by electronics or virtual reality. One of the biggest things, I'm like, man, Meta is a little scary. I think pickleball is ultimately going to save the world from, these youth playing it, right? And so I really believe that, right? It's scary to think what technology and AI and the new, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't love technology. If I were showing my office and the hundreds of Apple boxes that I have, and I use Open AI for my job every day. But I use technology, right? But I use it to leverage to help me with maybe the lack of skills that I have. Um, but I think we really need to let people know, right, that the American dream is real. We, from a very young age, it's instilled in us to go to school, get a good job, work until you're retired. I don't believe that anymore. When I turned 30, I was like, holy crap, these first 30 years went by so fast. I didn't go to college. I was in sales. I'm like, this is the only skill set I have. What else? I have nothing to show for, and no skill sets besides this. I'm doomed for the rest of my life. And here we are, right? Like we're going to do 15, 20 locations this year. Um, we're eh, for heaven's sakes, we're going to be team owners. We're trying to compete to be the best online pickleball store out there, and it just the inspiration comes just from parents, but also just seeing my own life change at the last 2 years to where I was to where I am now. I think is just it needs to be known that it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, a few things came to mind there. I think you said something about age. I won't out myself, but I am a millennial. Don't lump me in with don't lump me in with the Gen Z. But
How old are you, Brian?
I mean, I'm Asian, man. I could be like 65 for all we
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
What's it called? Something that I believe I read it from an article or I had in a conversation. This is not an original thought, but something that I did read was about like working. Basically, what I'm trying to say is like the success from pickleball, I think, comes from the fact that it is fun and it's working out that are combined together. So like we're starting to see less people going to the gym. You might start to see like a lot more influencers and things like that, but I think they're making it's like the Pareto principle. It's a very small amount that's making a very large change. So I think the winning like piece to pickleball is that it's fun. And like you start to see like what gets millennials and Gen Z out to work out. There's always got to be like something tied to it. There's got to be like food tied to it. There's got to be alcohol. There's got to be some element of fun. It can't just be like going to the gym solely anymore. Even for like workout applications, it, they incorporate gamification. So yeah, I think there's definitely that's a big piece to why this is going to work out. And
Yeah.
like you said, like saving the world from just being inside screens all day. As long as what's existing outside of the screen can be equally as fun or entertaining or more entertaining, then that can compete with the screens. It is
Yeah.
definitely very difficult to compete with. Um, yeah, it's interesting when you're talking about the American dream. Um, I think I kind of denied it for myself. Like my two brothers, older brothers, they're like entrepreneurial minded and they took that gene from my dad. And for a long time, I was like in these tech roles and I was like, man, they give me good money. I work 40 or so hours a week and then I can spend all my other time doing the things I want to do. And then I just kind of had this realization after I was laid off that like one, if I can lose a job, then why not just do it on my own terms? Like, okay, well, why not just bet on myself and do it? And then I just kind of thought about how some of the jobs today are like, it's like kind of like a specialist knowledge, right? It's not like very general. It's very like one track. And I don't know how well that prepares us for the outside world and being able to start a business. Like you say, like, man, you're doing business development, you're building relationships, in the early stages, you're probably calling up manufacturers. You're doing like social media. So to me, that's like been the
Yeah.
most exciting part. It's like, especially with like starting a podcast, is I get to do social media, do the thumbnails, do like reaching out to you and being able to have like a conversation. Like I enjoy the aspect of like wearing many hats, which again, from the tech scene, very startup minded. Um, where where do you want the Picklr to be? Like ideal vision, probably like let's say 2 years from now, because I don't think anyone can really guess 5 years, but like
Yeah.
2 years.
Uh, I definitely want to be very competitive when it comes to, being the largest provider of pickleball courts, right? But also giving people, I think that the franchise program for me, what gets me excited is giving people the ability that have the entrepreneur dream to buy into something that is, um, after all the hard work that we've done, we've always built this with scalability in mind because I always knew that we were going to have to replicate this. I think coming in, and providing a franchise opportunity with a proven model, operations, the marketing, the brand. I'm excited to be that brand that allows people to fulfill their entrepreneur dreams through pickleball, and so I'm excited about that. And then the I think from that aspect, I'd love to get to Canada. I think Canada would be sweet, and then target. I've been seeing a lot of Australia. Australia has been popping off when it comes to pickleball, and selfishly, I'd love to figure out how to get pickleball bigger in Mexico. So, I grew up going to Mexico my whole life. My parents are from there. I still have a lot of family there, and so I've seen some parks start transition uh, some cement pads into pickleball. I'd love to figure out how to give back um, to communities in Mexico to help grow the game, and so uh, and why not? Let's see, we're what 2023. When are the Olympics? Is it
Oh,
2024?
I think 2024. I think it always falls on an even number, right?
Yeah, so just continue to champion the sport. I mean, we got to get pickleball in the Olympics. It's you got to figure out how to leverage our reach and our brands to help. I heard flag football is going to be in the Olympics. If flag football can do it.
Dude,
Let's.
who's on the board for the Olympics and like approving what's in and what's not? Like I think they at one point wanted to pull out wrestling, which is insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So no, that's where I envision, right. And I think for me, 6 kids, right. I want to be able to provide a good life for my kids these next 2 years. Obviously, building these last 2 years, you make a lot of sacrifices, and sometimes family you sacrifice family for um, your dreams, and so I want to be able to provide for my kids to you know do all the things that I never got to do growing up. Whether it be simple things like skiing or going to Disneyland, but also uh, help them just go and see the world. For me, I think ultimately that's what drives me is I want to give my kids the life um, that I never had, and so I think that's what drives me too. Is just and then just taking care of my wife. I don't talk enough about my wife, but for her to take on 6 kids, I usually have something most nights. I help coach my daughter's soccer team, my oldest as well, and I'm a leader in my faith too, so I oversee a congregation. So a lot of the times I'm doing stuff with youth during the week or helping somebody in my community. And so my wife, a lot of the times, takes the back seat in this, but I want to be able to provide for her and give her, the life that she deserves. And so, yeah, that's ultimately in 2 years. That's what I'd like to see. And, attend some cool major league events and more MMA fights, right, Brian? Let's. Yeah, you sounds like you're an MMA fan, a big UFC guy. So, yeah, I'd love where the sport has gotten to with UFC.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times the spouse partner is often that unspoken kind of behind the scenes,
Yeah.
like business partner. Um, UFC. Who's your current like pound for pound best, and what do you think of Volk versus Islam Makhachev?
Yeah. Listen, I heard a very interesting argument on why Bulk is still pound for pound. It was funny because it said he did not win the match, but he won the fight. And I found that very interesting because ultimately he went up in weight class. Uh, and yes, Islam won 3 out of the 2 or whatever. Some people had it. But for Volk to go up, I thought he was going to get wrecked. The heart that man has, and just how crazy, man. The guy had his back, and he's just like, "Hey," I'm like, "What is your problem, dude? Like, like don't lose focus. He's got to choke you out." I've seen Islam do it over and over again, but um, I think for me it's still Volk, just because for me Islam didn't win convincingly, and at the end of the fight, I mean, I saw the damage that Islam took at the end. You give it one more round, who knows? Volk could have maybe finished him. So, um, yeah, I think pound for pound Volk, but uh, I always root for the Mexican fighters. It was good to see Yair win the interim belt. I'm excited to see those 2 fight. So it was good to see a second Mexican-born champ after Brandon Moreno. So uh, yeah, it's UFC's kind of. I don't miss too many pay-per-view events, which my wife really doesn't love, but me and my kids love.
That's
So
awesome. Um, Speaking of, yeah, the Mexican champs, Brandon Moreno, my 2 buddies and I went to Anaheim. I forget which UFC it was. I think, his 3rd fight against Figueiredo. It was on the same card that I think Francis Ngannou fought Cyril Gane on, but
yeah,
that was, I've gone to Connor fights. Well, I've gone to one Connor fight. It was the second Nate Diaz rematch, but even my buddy who went to MSG when Connor fought, he was like, dude, when Brandon Moreno came out, that was the loudest that he's ever heard, like any stadium for any
it
fighter.
was basically a home court advantage for Moreno in Anaheim. Oh my goodness, the Mexican fan base showed out in Anaheim. So
Yeah.
it was yeah, no. So you've attended live events then, huh?
Yeah.
I,
I
I
don't.
was at
Oh, yeah.
I
Sorry. Go
was
ahead.
at the Ben Askren uh, Jorge Masvidal fight. So the 4 seconds,
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
when uh, oh, I'm blanking right now. African champ head kicked Salt
Oh,
Lake City.
Kamaru Usman,
Kamaru Usman. I was at
Leon
that fight.
Edwards.
Leon.
Damn.
Yeah. So the two I've attended have just been treats. They've been gifts to
Yeah.
to be able to see. So yeah, never tried any martial arts though. Like I got a bad shoulder, lower back. I could stay at pickleball for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Can't
Um,
afford injuries.
Yeah, no, man, we need you to be like 100%. If we need the whole community and the sport needs all your courts. Like we can't have you getting injured.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I had
What
I
I was
was
gonna
just
say,
gonna
what
say
level pickleball do you play at?
kind of all over the place. There's a spot called Pan Am. It's like this very like run down court. But it's like the closest court in downtown. And I talk about it because one, I started playing there. Well, actually, I started playing when I was in Chicala, Mexico. But um, that Pan Am court has the best vibe, the best like group of people. It's wild. Like that same platform, I guess if you want to call it, shares like roller derby, shares futsal.
Wow.
There's pickleball happening, and I'm telling you, like the court doesn't even have any texture. It just hasn't been painted in forever. The park won't do anything about it. There's actually like a dead body in a porta potty, like last year. They were just like someone walked in the
What?
porta potty. Yeah, it's crazy. There's like homeless people around there. But pickleball, like you said, the community and just the enjoyment of it like brings a ton of people together. And it's just where people play. They don't care to go. It's funny because they don't care to go out to like really nicer places. Not that there's a ton of them, but man, there's just people like drinking there, and it's a vibe for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I play a little bit everywhere. Wherever you can basically find a court. Like we have all the players, just the infrastructure is not there. And I'm sure you've heard about Tim Klitsch and Awesome Pickle
Yep.
Ranch.
Yeah.
And, like the
Is
initial
that
plan,
opened yet?
fell through. Um, and they're finding like a second option, which is going to be scaled. I think it's going to be more scaled down, but it will still be something that's kind of like in downtown. But I mean, the place is ripe for someone like you to come in, and
Yeah.
I mean, indoor too. The heat here has made me reconsider whether or not this place is going to be like a forever home.
What about the cold, dude?
Nah, I'll take the cold. Like
Dude,
it
I
can be
was
cold.
I was there for the collegiate tournament, and I did not come dressed for winter in Texas. It's a different kind of cold. I mean, the mountains this year in Utah have gotten 500 plus inches of snow this year, so we've gotten bombarded. But dude, Texas cold when it's like 28 degrees. That was I felt that to the bones, man.
Yeah, if you're not expecting it, it'll mess you up. But have you been here during like the summers? Did you come to the first
I, I
MLP?
have I have not been actually. When was the second one? Because that was hot. It was really hot.
That was
Um,
probably around like anytime it's between
I think
like
it's
June to like September.
well, and quite honestly, Brian, I think pickleball is transitioning to indoor. I think there's a lot of pros that really enjoy it, but you have to have the spacing, the surface, and the lighting correct, right? Jay DeVilliers tweeted that pro pickleball needs to go more indoors because you're not relying. How many rain delays have we seen, right? How many weather delays have we seen? How many times? I mean, even from the the situation where they were lobbing uh, Lee Waters and she couldn't see the ball, right? The elements come into play quite a bit, and I think playing perfect pickleball indoors where it's 68 degrees, good lighting, good surfacing. That's what we're coming in to do, and I think a lot of people really enjoy, coming in and you don't have to deal with city ordinances of, hey, you can't play till 9 or this shuts down at 10 because it's so loud. We're 24/7, so come play whenever.
Yeah, and any weather, like whether it's the wind,
Yeah,
like we deal with it. Everyone deals with it, but the wind just sucks. Like the ball just moves so differently in the wind and can totally change an entire game. But like you said, the lighting too. I mean, not just sunlight, but even the artificial light when the like sun is down, the sun is set, and it's like completely dark, and there's just like artificial light. It just that even looks a little bit different. Um, we got let's see, we got like 8 minutes left. What question am I dying to ask you? Well, like you've gone over a lot about how you founded the business, and you've talked more about like your mission and your principles, which I think kind of blend into this question. But what advice would you have for someone that wants to successfully start a business in pickleball?
whew. Yeah. This is. I think if you're doing it because pickleball is there's the potential of the growth and not because you have the love for the game or what it can do to a community. If you're driven by the fact that, hey, I can make serious money on just the potential of pickleball, and you're driven by that, I think you're gonna find that um, you're going to do it for the wrong reason, right? I think you have to find the when that article came out that said pickleball will save the world, I 100% believed that. And so I think if you're wanting to get into the game of pickleball, do it because you love it, um, and what it can do for a community, and then great products will come out of it because you're doing it with passion, right? And when I think about every aspect of the facility, the lighting, the court servicing, the fences, the aesthetics of it, and we're going to get better at it. I think about the experience that someone is going to have when they come to the facility. I want them leaving saying that was an amazing facility, um, with great community, and it was competitive or fun, right? That's what I want the feeling that people to have, when they come in and they do it. Even from our e-commerce store, I want them when they reach out and they say, "Hey, I'm a beginner in pickleball. What paddle do you recommend?" Oh, I'm not just going to sell them the Ben Johns $200 paddle because that's what ultimately will give us. Like, really figure out, hey, what do you like about pickleball? Is it a Are you a power player? Do you like the soft game? What is it that what's your style of game, and help them. Here's five options that are really going to help you to improve your game, right? And that's the take we take on, when people reach out and say, hey, what paddle would you recommend? Or, do you have this colorway, or when is this paddle coming in? We'll follow up and we'll make sure that they're aware of it, right? And so I think everything just has to be driven by passion and love of the game, and creating community. And you'll see great products come out of of passion and love. So yeah, do it for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, do things because you want to make it contagious. Like, we want to make pickleball like as big as possible, and
Yeah.
and in order to do that, you want to do people by the right way, and it is good to see that paddles now you can actually like suggest or recommend a paddle based on someone's
Yeah. So you're
style.
playing with the Andiamo.
Oh yeah, yeah. Here we go. Yeah, one of my buddies, he's out here. He's one of the co-founders. And yeah, I guess this is a small plug for Julian and Ryan and Bolaire. But hey,
I
man,
still haven't tried it. I
oh
need to
really?
try it, but uh, I could show you my stack of paddles to the right, but I won't. But um, ever since we signed that Yola partnership, I'm Team Yola. So I play with the Simone 14 millimeter. That thing is nice. That thing
Hell
is
yeah!
nice.
It's
So,
funny. Um, it's actually a small world. Have you talked to Tom Nguyen?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we know each other from MMA. He like was I think he was doing like photography, or he was just with the crew of the coach that coached me, and I saw him at MLP, and I didn't recognize him. He recognized me. He's like, "Hey, are you Brian?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is odd. I don't know you." And he's just like, "Dude, I'm Tom." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And we like found out that we run in the same circle back home, and he was actually that was like before this. I was using the Yola division. How are you liking the Simone paddle?
Yeah, I love it. It's been my favorite one so far, and I've tried them all. Right, all the Selkirks to Vulcans to all the Yolas, but the Simone, um, I'm a I even for I'm a chubbier guy, and you would expect more power out of me, but I like to play more of the soft game, and so the 14 millimeter has allowed me to start speeding up the ball and hitting the ball harder, driving the ball where I was usually so trying to finish third balls. It's not, let's drive that baby. So yeah.
I'm with you on the soft game. Let's see. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you would like everyone to know?
No, I maybe who's my favorite pro to watch? I don't know. What's
Yeah.
my
Who is
favorite
your favorite pro?
event to attend? I'm biased because of Tyler Lung is a partner in this, but I root hard for him. But if if I had to pick someone that wasn't Tyler, there's some very fun up and coming players to watch, but Tyson's always fun to watch. Rafa in the MLP format, he's a lot of fun. I mean, Julian Arnold's fun to watch. It's fun, but Anna Lee, just to see Anna Lee play at her age is always that's great. So no, I'll consume it all.
Yeah, she's
But
impressive. Everyone,
MLP for sure. MLP
MLP.
is the event. You
Yeah,
gotta attend. If you haven't attended MLP, you gotta get to an MLP. If you haven't watched it, you gotta watch it. It's that ultimately is what's going to get viewership and fan bases to pickleball.
yeah. I don't know what it is about that format, but I do think that just the event itself, I'd be curious to know if that will be the future of how it'll be broadcasted. Because right now it's like every tournament you have a champion, and it's like that's not the traditional model for most sports, I suppose. You got to have like some
There has to be a
exhibition
season.
matches.
There has to be
Yeah,
there has to be a end of year championship, home teams. There's a lot of cool things they can do. I mean, especially now that they're specific to a city. Let's get them some Picklr indoor courts and make them their home bases, and let's get a season going.
absolutely, man. And hey, happy to help out wherever I can. But shout out to Speaking of MLB, shout out to Rafa Hewitt. That dude is a savage when it came into that
Yeah,
format. He really stood out in that
he's
format. But
he's a
um,
beast.
yeah, I like the way that guy plays. Let's see. Yeah, so we're at an hour. I want to just give you just this brief time to plug away, man. Where can people find
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Check out the Picklr.com. We just launched our new website yesterday, so I'm really excited about that. So if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, check out our franchise program. It'll get launched in a couple of weeks. If you need pickleball gear, it's Picklr.shop, best online shop out there. And stay tuned for Stack Athletics, providing the best clothes out there for pickleball.
Awesome. Yeah. Everyone that listened to this episode, I'm sure you're just as excited as I am. But yeah, thanks, George, again for your time and
Thank you,
being
Brian.
transparent. Yeah. And giving an opportunity for future founders to also listen in on your insights and kind of live vicariously through your trials. But
Yeah,
shout out to all the immigrants and coming here and creating that
that's
American
right.
dream, inspiring people. Yeah. All right, man. Well,
Well, that was fun,
everyone,
Brian. Appreciate you, brother.
absolutely have a good one.